There were no candles, no soft music, and no gentle introductions. Just a cold metal folding chair, a name tag that read, Mary Faye, recently divorced, and a timer ticking down from 5 minutes. The camera didn't need to pan far to find the tension. It radiated from Mary's posture, stiff and smiling too hard, like a woman trying to convince herself this was a good idea. Across from her sat a man by the name of Carl, mid-50s, business casual, divorced 3 times, and less interested in the woman fidgeting with the ice in her water glass than he was in his phone. "So what do you do?" he asked, never having the courtesy to look up. "I used to be involved with a family, a highly public one," Meri answered cautiously, her tone riding the fine line between honesty and PR damage control. Carl growled, "Oh, reality television? I detest that." The timer rang. Meri beamed, said thank you, and got up and headed back to her vacant chair by the snack table. She didn't voice it, but you could tell by looking in her eyes. This was a mistake. Season 20 had promised new beginnings, new love stories, and individual development. But for Meri, it was fast becoming another vicious joke. And as the next man came over, smiling, assured, and marginally too tanned, Meri straightened his blouse and went for another smile. But something in the way the camera stayed on the angle of her eye, the way her foot drummed beneath the table, spoke volumes. This wasn't a matter of searching for love. This was about whether she could still be wanted, still to be chosen, and in the shadows of her own past, where Cody's silence had resided for all these decades. This 5-minute speed date felt more like survival and less like hope. She wasn't here to find someone. She was here to feel something, anything. But what she didn't realize, what nobody else in the room realized, was that one of the men seated at that table wasn't a stranger, not at all. And when he saw her, the catastrophe didn't begin. It exploded. Adam was written on his name tag, but that wasn't why Meri hesitated. It was the way he angled his head as she introduced herself, as though he already knew something he shouldn't. He smiled. Not like the others, not nervous or polite, but amused. "Meri Brown?" he said softly, voice laced with something between recognition and censure. "As in Sister Wives Meri Brown." Her smile wavered. It was the moment every public person feared in private settings, the unmasking. "Used to be," she laughed. "Half, and half dying inside." Adam leaned forward a little. "I actually worked for your husband years ago, Flagstaff Permits Office." That was it. The breath froze in her throat. She looked at his face again, and it all came back. Not him, but the time, the building permit. The delays, the land never filled. He noticed the acknowledgement strike her and grinned even more. Small world, isn't it? The timer wasn't even ticking yet. She glanced at the production assistant on the periphery of the room, wishing to bypass the round, but too late. The camera rolled. TLC had seeded speed dating as a light-hearted redemption storyline. But this was revelation. "So," he said, folding his arms. "You single now, or still sharing?" It wasn't just a snark, it was a dagger encased in charm. And the worst part, the producers were eating it up. You could almost already hear the voiceover already written. "When your past appears across the table, will Meri run, or face it?" Her smile fell. "Are you here to date or to dig?" she asked. Adam leaned back, unbothered. "I'm here to see if the woman behind the camera is anything like the one I watched get humiliated on television for 10 years. The table went silent. Meri didn't blink, but inside, something shifted. This wasn't speed dating. This was reckoning. The timer buzzed, but Meri didn't move. Not this time. Instead, she just sat there, still. As Adam gathered his water and strolled away, obviously pleased with the hit and run he'd just perpetrated, the camera zoomed in on her face, and for a fleeting moment the audience caught a glimpse of something raw. An old hurt torn open by fluorescent lights. She rose slowly, walked over to the production table, and pulled out a red folder entitled Confessionals, Faye Round 1. Instead of going directly to the chair where she would be interviewed, though, she went straight out. A cameraman followed her as she sat at an outdoor tent where the parking lot ended, opening up the folder and gazing at the empty sheet of paper within. "Say something real," the field producer said into her earpiece. "That is what they want." Meri stared straight into the camera. "You want real?" she asked, a quiver in her voice revealing the passion in her belly. "Here is real. I divorced a marriage where I was tolerated, not cherished. I endured a man who disregarded me on live television. And now I'm sitting in a room full of strangers pretending I'm brave enough to do it all over again." She threw the folder onto the ground. "I'm not looking for another man, I'm looking for peace. But apparently, that doesn't make good television." Silence followed. The cameraman lowered the lens. Even the boom mic operator looked down. Inside, the speed date night continued as usual. Giggles, ice cubes rattling, anxious questions, and flirtatious grins. But outside, Meri wasn't playing games anymore. She pushed her chair back, wiped her pants with her hand, and growled, "Let's get on with it." But just as she swung around toward the building, a text beeped on her phone. Unknown, number 1 sentence. "You looked beautiful tonight. I wish I'd said more." She stood there, then a second message. "I'm still here, still watching." Her fingers trembled, because she knew exactly who Cody was, and if he was watching, really watching, it meant her next move might not just affect her storyline, it could disrupt the entire season 20 narrative TLC had carefully built. This wasn't just a dating show anymore, it was a landmine field, and Kody Brown had just set foot on it, the letter seared like acid in Meri's hand, although the words themselves were sweet. "You looked beautiful tonight. I wish I'd said more." Faye. It wasn't the message, it was the recollection behind it, that recognizable scribble, the subtle manipulation hidden beneath pseudo-tenderness. Cody had always excelled at it, waiting until the perfect moment to return, not when she was lonely, not when she was joyful, but precisely when she was discovering herself without him. The camera crew tagged along as she went back to the main event room, but her stride had been altered. No longer nervous, no longer uncertain, she walked with a person who'd been provoked. TLC producers scurried in the background, talking softly into headsets. "She is hot, keep it going. Zoom on her phone if we can." But Meri didn't sit. She strode past the dating tables and into the green room where her mic remained hot. "He texted me," she told herself aloud. Not that anyone should mind. One of the associate producers glanced up from his laptop. "Cody?" Meri nodded. "He is here, watching, possibly even sending plants." The young assistant went pale. "Did he send someone in there tonight?" She didn't respond. She didn't need to. The green-shirted guy, Adam, had been too cocky, too scripted, too logoed. But now things were about to get real. Now the television show was beginning to fall apart, and Meri wasn't a cast member any longer. She was the wild card. She pulled her mic off, handed it to a startled assistant, and said, "If he wants a show, I'll give him one, but it won't be about him anymore." Meanwhile, in a parked black SUV down the street, a man with familiar curls and a wrinkled frown watched the live monitor feed via his phone, Cody alone. The screen indicated Meri entering the room once again, but this time without hesitation. He growled under his breath. She wasn't supposed to come back swinging. What he didn't know, what the crew didn't even know yet, was that one of the men Meri was about to sit down with wasn't some random stranger. He was a fan, a superfan, and he had questions, tough ones. The type that might make a dating show cross over into a deposition. He told her his name was Marcus, late 30s, softly spoken, buttoned-down shirt, but his hands shook ever so slightly as he extended a hand across the table. "It is surreal to meet you," he said too sincerely. Meri smiled warily this time. "Good to meet you, Marcus." But he had something in his eyes. Not admiration, awareness. The sort of awareness one derives not through dialogue, but through observing each season, each frame, each confession. "You've been through a lot," he whispered. "More than they put in the cuts," she bristled. "You watched the program?" "Every one," he said. "Even the deleted scenes they leaked in the foreign cuts. I know what they attempted to bury. I know what Cody told you back there when you moved to Flagstaff, and I know what Robyn refused to say when she could have." Meri's lips parted, but nothing emerged. Marcus hadn't been flirting, he was swearing. "I am sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, but as soon as I saw you were here, I couldn't help it. Because someone needs to tell you to your face. You didn't deserve how they treated you. And the way you still showed up for that family, that was strength, not silence. The timer hadn't even started, and already Meri felt herself disintegrating, not from hurt, but from validation. The kind that slices deeper because it is not often given. "Thank you," she said, voice constricted, but Marcus wasn't done. He reached into the jacket pocket of his, a laminated tag from one of Christine's old notebooks. "I acquired this at a fan auction. It is authentic, and it has got your name on it." He flipped it over. 2017 Fae Therapy Cutbacks, the year they informed them that they couldn't pay for one sessions anymore. The year Robyn splurged on private coaches. The year Meri started dropping out of every group discussion. "I wanted to give this back to you," Marcus said. "It was never supposed to leave your hands." Meri stared at the tab, and her fingers didn't just tremble. They closed around it like it was the last piece of herself she didn't know she lost. And then she said it, soft but clear. "You're not here for a date." Marcus nodded. "Undefined number. I am here to remind you who you were before they wrote your story." Off camera, a producer gasped. Undefined Becca's what had just been shot wasn't speed dating. Undefined it was an intervention. Undefined, and when the footage landed in the edit bay, it wouldn't be edited as romance. Undefined it would be edited as evidence described by of survival. Summary end of the voice Meri was finally taking back, because the catastrophe wasn't the men she'd encountered, it was the one who believed she couldn't rise to the occasion without him. The tab remained in her hand well after Marcus had departed the table. A thin laminated sheet of paper smaller than her palm, but denser than any camera taken in her direction. 2017 Fae Therapy Cuts. 3 words that had become an excuse, a turning point, a lie encased in family concurrence, and now it was here, summoned by a stranger with no ulterior motive but the truth. Meri stuffed it in her bag, her hand against something else, an old yellow post. It she hadn't intended to hold on to. It said, "Be open, smile more, don't talk about Cody." Instructions from a TLC producer the day before cameras rolled, a reminder that her narrative had never been her own, that for years even her suffering was staged. She glanced over at the room. The music played. The laughter was pre-recorded, and the follow-up date waited in the dark, but not Meri. Not any longer. She got up, past the table, the water pitchers and catered fruit plates, and back into the green room where the producers sat observing from split screens behind. "Cut the rest of the speed dates," she said matter-of-factly. One of them blinked. "Meri, we need more." "You have what you need." She cut him off. "Now I want something back." "Nothing then." "What do you mean?" Meri leaned forward. "I want my binder." Confusion, Christine's. "No," she said. "Mine, my records, my edits, my deleted interviews. I know you keep them archived. I want it all." The room shifted. Legalities hung in the air like storm clouds. "That is not standard procedure," a producer muttered. "Then break the procedure," she said, "or I walk." Meri had been walked over, edited out, silenced for years. But in that moment she didn't sound like a cast member. She sounded like a woman reclaiming her story. A voice crackled over a headset. "She is serious. Give her whatever she wants. Just keep her on camera." And just like that, the disaster they had promised viewers, Meri's dating disaster, was morphing into something far more dangerous. Meri's awakening, because buried in that vault of raw footage and unaired interviews were truths no one had ever seen. Not about her relationships, but about her erasure. And now she had a plan. She wasn't going to find love in this episode. She was going to discover herself and take the receipts with her. The air in the room was chillier than the rest of the building. A combination server closet and graveyard. Steel shelves stacked with labeled hard drives, yellowed file boxes, and piles of unreleased confessionals. Most of the cast didn't even know the room existed, let alone had access to the room. But Meri did now. The head producer, cornered by the network's PR hysteria and her ultimatum to leave, had grudgingly granted her supervised access. A clipboard, wielding P, followed her around like a guard dog, but was silent. Third shelf green drive, labeled 13 to 17 raw. Meri directed as if she had learned the layout by hearsay and gossip. Her hands trembled as she discovered the bin, dusted off the dust, and plugged the external hard drive into the laptop the assistant put on the folding table. And there it was, her account pre-editing, voiceovers, silence being marketed as acceptance, hundreds of clips, all labeled by date, by place, some with tags, too emotional, contradicts Cody, not supportive. And then she came upon it, one clip marked, Meri Faye unused Faye therapy request, Flagstaff. She pressed play. The screen flickered, and there she was. Red eyes, paper-thin voice, but not shattered. Sitting in a studio chair in 2019. I asked if we could keep seeing a therapist, her on-screen self spoke, because I wasn't being heard. Cody told her it was too pricey. But the same week, we hired a life coach, him and Robyn. The authentic Meri, seated in front of the laptop in 2025, gazed at herself. This never made it on the air. This was not a moment TLC felt was narratively cohesive. It was a complication, a threat to the fairy tale, a woman seeking assistance and being informed. It was too expensive to count. To her back, the pa fidgeted uncomfortably. "You are not supposed to take anything out of this room," he whispered. Meri spun, pulled the flash drive she had hidden in her sweater pocket, and smiled icily. "You think I am coming underprepared?" she asked. The camera crew filming the speed dating special had no clue about the drama that was going down in the rear wing of the studio lot, while editors were editing B-roll of cringeworthy dates and cheesy soundbites. Meri was gathering proof, not for court, mind you, but for her legacy, and she was only getting started. The green drive was merely the start, because the red binder, the one fans imagined only Christine possessed. Each wife had begun their own. Christine just happened to be the first one brave enough to open hers in public, but now it was Meri's turn. It had been buried deep in Meri's storage unit in Utah. Not a digital archive, not a backup cloud folder, but a real binder. Leather, bound, sun-faded, and locked with a small silver clasp that hadn't been opened in years. Long before Christine's notorious courtroom tab explosion, long before Janelle began pulling banking documents, Meri had been recording notes. Initially, it was innocuous. Receipts for expenses on the home she paid herself, text message printouts that suddenly ceased to deliver, producers' memos regarding what was too heavy for specific episodes, and then it expanded, letters she never actually sent to Cody, photos from family events where she had been cropped out of promotional images, an email thread marked urgent showing Cody requesting Robyn be prioritized for the TLC, paid therapy slots while Meri's were quietly cut. She had documented everything, not to weaponize it but to understand it, to prove to herself that she wasn't imagining the slow erasure, that her voice hadn't just faded, it had been filtered out for years. She'd convinced herself holding on to the binder was petty, emotional hoarding, but now it was her counterscript, her proof. The meltdown of the speed dating event had been a turning point, a catalyst, and that yellow binder was going to be in the spotlight. TLC believed they had a story. Meri, broken and desperate, tries dipping her toes back into the dating world and hilariously fails. But what they had at hand now was a receipts holding woman, and she was not going to wait until reunion specials or Instagram lives to distribute them. She was setting up her own special. One, horror, no editing, no studio input, no producer input, just her voice, and her binder. "You want a love story," she grumbled to herself, scanning the pages as she made her way back to her car. "Here is one, a woman who lost love for a man who wouldn't see her, and found love for the truth instead." As she drove home to the set, the binder buckled into the passenger seat like a co-pilot. A message appeared on her dashboard. An email from TLC Legal. Subject heading, "Urgent Faye Confidentiality Review Pending." They knew they were attempting to shut her down. But it was already too late, because one of the dates she had rejected earlier, he'd seen the flash drive in her hand, and he'd already started a Reddit thread called, "Meri's Real Truth is Coming. You won't believe what she has." It started small, just a late-night thread on a Sister Wives fan subreddit, posted by a throwaway account named Binder Witness 22. The title was innocuous enough. Something big is coming. Meri's got a binder too. but it took less than 6 hours for the comments to explode. Screenshots surfaced, grainy, yes, but undeniable. A blurred image of Meri in the archive room. A close-up shot of the tab that read, "Therapy Cutbacks, Faye 2017." And a moment captured in some behind-the-scenes footage no one outside production should have possessed. Meri on the floor, her yellow binder spread wide, her face red from emotion. No makeup, no posturing, just honest. The fandom recognized what this signified. Christine had blown season 18 wide open with her binder, igniting media coverage and courtroom drama. But Meri's binder, that rewrote everything. She wasn't just the loyal ex-wife anymore. She was the witness who kept quiet longest and watched the most. Within 24 hours, hashtags trended. Number Meribender truth. Number she was erased. Number let Meri speak. TMZ picked it up by morning. Then People magazine, and by lunch, TLC was on the defensive, issuing a vague statement about editing integrity and respecting all cast member journeys. But fans weren't buying it. They recognized spin when they saw it. Meri's Instagram was still silent. No posts, no comments, only one story, a white background with black text. "I never needed revenge, I just needed time." Cody, however, was furious. He wrote a now-deleted statement suggesting that Meri was weaponizing old pain for relevance. But the damage was already done. Each silence he'd imposed throughout the past decade was now being reconsidered. Each time he'd uttered, "Meri and I just drifted," followers asked, "or did you push her out the door quietly in cover for your favorite?" And while TLC rushed to contain the fallout, Meri sat down quietly with a free producer from a streaming service. Not a spin-off. Not yet. But for an one-off special, Meri Uncut, The Lost Years. She was finished waiting for the sister wives story to vindicate her. She was prepared to write her own. But there was one last obstacle, because another person had also read the Reddit post Robyn, and she was not going to let Meri hog the limelight without a fight. She had something to say, something she'd kept hidden since Vegas, and if she spoke now, it would all come unraveled from the plans Meri had put in place. Robyn sat in her bedroom, blinds closed, phone glowing on her face as she read through the Reddit thread repeatedly, her finger tapping the same fuzzy picture of Meri in the archive room, zoomed in that tab. Therapy Cutbacks Faye 2017. She recalled that year vividly, because it was the same one she'd started solo sessions for her marriage with Cody under a confidential TLC side budget. The same year that she informed producers that Meri probably doesn't want therapy, she wants attention. A soundbite that had never aired. But what if it had? And worse, what if it was in that archive? She clenched her phone hard. She imagined it all falling apart in her head. Her carefully constructed public persona as peacemaker, victim, sole wife who ever made an effort. And now Meri was coming out not as forgotten, but forged. A woman scared by silence who stormed through it with proof in her hands. And if Meri released that special, if she dropped those tapes, it wouldn't just humiliate Cody. It would lay bare Robyn's silence. That was a line she wouldn't let Meri cross. Not without dragging her back. Robyn called her PR agent. "I'm ready," she said. "Book the interview. But I'm not going to cry this time." Hours later, TLC was blindsided as Robyn agreed to a live-streamed sit, down with a national morning show under her own contract. No network editors, no post-production. Just Robyn, a ring light, and a sealed manila envelope she held before the camera. "There are things I never told anyone," she said, cold voice. "Because I thought that keeping the family safe was keeping the show safe. But if Meri's going to rewrite history, then so am I." Millions of viewers watched. She opened the envelope and pulled out a hand-written letter in 2014. Meri's handwriting, pleading with Cody to bring her back. "I am sorry I was aloof," it said. "I'll be better. I'll earn my spot back." Robyn glared at the camera. She wants you to believe she got pushed out. But Meri exposed herself. The internet was divided in half. Number Team Meri versus number Team Robyn. But Meri didn't bat an eye, because what Robyn didn't realize was this. The letter was actual, but it wasn't embarrassing. It was a date stamp, a receipt, a woman begging to be heard, before she discovered she never would. Meri didn't have to erase the past. She was presenting it raw. And as Robyn ended her live stream, satisfied with her spin, Meri was walking onto a soundstage, binder in tow to shoot a cold open one line. One camera, undefendone take. Undefendone take, undefindo. I begged for love. Undefino, I demand truth. The studio was bare to nothing more than concrete, black drapes, and one overhead light. No production sheen, no set construction. Only Meri standing in the middle of the stage with her yellow binder clutched in one hand and a lone mic attached to her collar. Her hair was loose. No glam team, her eyes were intent, and her voice unrattled. For 12 years you saw what they let you see, she recited. Not what I lived. The camera zoomed in, slow and soft, as she opened up the binder and turned to the first tab. The silence contract. She held up a 2015 printed TLC email explaining what she could talk about in confessionals that season. Underlined in red, avoid mentioning Robyn spending, Cody's absence, and personal requests for therapy unless pre-approved. She stared straight into the lens. They said I was negative, that I was weighing down the show. What they actually said was, you are making the story harder to manage. Click the next tab, the Vegas years, what wasn't filmed, pictures of intimate moments. Meri with the children on birthdays Cody missed, grocery store receipts for months she covered the family out of pocket, texts printed out that were left unanswered. I never told anyone, she says, because I didn't want to sound bitter, but silence wasn't grace, it was control. Click next tab, the isolation loop. A clip plays raw footage of Meri asking for alone time with Cody. He squirms, exhales, then grumbles off screen. She needs too much from me. It never made it onto the air. That line haunted me for years, she breathed. It made me shrink, apologize, overcompensate. Her tone grew harder. But now, I am done shrinking. She turned the page, showing a picture, her sitting alone at the family reunion dinner in season 16, cropped out of the final promo photo. Even when I did show up, they erased me, so now I am showing up louder. The last tab, Meri uncut. Dozens of stickies from producers. Smile more. No crying this take. Stay away from Cody criticism in the finale episodes. She was shaking slightly with her hand, but she didn't pause. These weren't suggestions, they changed who I could be. Then she did something no one expected. She reached for a blank tab, marked it now, and began writing on camera. No script, no permission, just honesty. You wanted a disaster. She stood firm. Then let this be the storm. In the background, TLC executives huddled in horror. Robyn made desperate phone calls to network sources. Cody remained quiet, and on the internet, the video was already viral. But Meri, she was finally serene, because for once the narrative wasn't about her. It was about her. In under 2 hours, it had gotten over 1 million hits. The comment section abruptly blew up, not with gossip, not with sympathy, but with solidarity. Women of all ages wrote paragraphs about their own silences, their own erasures, their own years spent attempting to smile more for other people. I thought I was losing my mind. Thank you, Meri. I saw you vanishing on television, seeing you re-emerge on your terms. That's power. Even former cast and crew members began to comment anonymously. Some confirming the binders were real, others saying Meri's footage had been intentionally buried to favor more marketable arcs. It was no longer about Cody, or even Robyn. This was bigger. This was a narrative shift. TLC made a brief statement the next day. We respect all of our cast members and support their personal journeys. But fans weren't buying it, and when ratings declined for the next planned Sister Wives, Love After Plurality episode, the network couldn't ignore it. They made Meri an offer, a soft reboot, her own unscripted show, no group storylines, no cast pecking order, no forced makeup. Just her voice, her pace, her truth. She said, "No, I'm not here to sell pain anymore," she told her new followers during a live stream. "I'm here to show what happens after the pain is over." Back at Coyote Pass, Robyn called an emergency meeting with Cody. "She's stealing our audience," Robyn hissed. But Cody just stared out the window, quiet for once, because he knew, somewhere deep down in the hollow place where his power used to live, he knew this wasn't Meri's revenge, it was her resurrection. The speed dating event would be remembered, but not for awkward laughs or reality television bloopers. It would be the night Meri sat across from a stranger, saw herself in honesty for the first time, and understood she didn't need anyone else to pick her. She had already picked herself, and the binder. She sent it, not to TLC, not to a publisher, but to a women's archive center in Utah. A donation, a record. She included a note. This was once a collection of my pain. Now it is proof I survived it. The last frame of the special has Meri walking by herself. Not lonely, just whole. No ring, no regrets. Just a woman reclaiming her own name. Narrator voice fades in. They called it a disaster. But maybe disaster is just what it looks like when a woman stops waiting for permission to be real. Fade to black.